It's only been 2 weeks in the NFL season, but what player are you already completely panicking about? That is the question we asked you all in this week's edition of the Fantasy Football Survival Kit. The series, the community, the group that we are building here together to help each other get through this. Let's get right into it. First one comes in from @ndutton13, and he says, this guy is blowing my mind, and not in the good way, and it's Kerryon Johnson, the Detroit Lions running back, and he has certainly not been the featured bell cow back of a run-first offense like we expected. The Lions have gone more pass-friendly, especially in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals in a shootout game script, so I'm willing to be a little patient with Kerryon Johnson. I think he gets back on track next. This one comes in from @Sammy_GD, and yeah, this one hits me right in the feels too. It's Stefon Diggs of the Minnesota Vikings. Look, Mike Zimmer and the Vikings brass was not lying. They were not lying when they said that they wanted to be run heavy. They have committed to establishing the run. So you have two really talented receivers in Stefon Diggs and Adam Thielen that were top fantasy picks, and they do not have the floor that you wanted. They do not have the ceiling that you wanted. I have Stefon Diggs in a lot of leagues, and yeah, I'm panicking. I'm literally peeing my pants right now from the panic. Let's move on to the next one after I go change. This one comes in from @Rizzy_, and yeah, congratulations, things have changed quite a bit for Julian Edelman. You're gonna get some weeks where the volume isn't there. He catches 4 passes against the Dolphins. That sucks, but he plays for the best offense in the NFL. Are you taking that out of your fantasy starting lineup? I don't think so. Next. This one comes in from J. Niv Jr., and it's Joe Mixon whiffing on this dive into the end zone. Yeah, Joe Mixon had a pretty terrible week too, but remember, he was injured coming into that game. But I actually think things could get better for Joe Mixon going forward, and here's why. This Cincinnati passing offense has actually been much better than we expected. Andy Dalton kind of looks good in Zach Taylor's system. John Ross is having a breakout season. So Bengals offense is moving a little bit better. I think that's going to be more scoring opportunities for Joe Mixon, who we know is going to be involved as a receiver. Next. This one comes in from @BrianWilson384, and it's Will Fuller. Yeah, I get it. Fuller's been about this close to some major fantasy days. However, he's still getting the opportunity. He's top 10 so far in air yards, and here's the bottom line. Deshaun Watson looks amazing right now. I am not trying to sell off any pieces of this Houston offense. Next. This one comes in from @TheBeardedGuy79, and it's Todd Gurley having a good clap for himself as well. He's not going to be the great RB1 that he was in 2018. However, he's still been involved in key situations. He scored a touchdown in week 2. We saw him ice away the game as the closing back in week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. You've settled for what you got in Todd Gurley, so don't panic. Feel content with it. This one comes in from @KaneSKL, and this one's personal for me, so I'm actually going to take a seat for this one. It's Cam Newton of the team I was once a fan of, the Carolina Panthers, and it is a time of misery in Carolina. Not only was Cam Newton probably the worst I've ever seen him in terms of his accuracy in week 2 in that loss on Thursday Night Football, he's re-aggravated his foot injury. This looked like the year where everything was going to be different. They had Curtis Samuel, who should have had like 170 yards in that game on Thursday night. Don't at me, haters, but it's been the same old goddamn Panthers so far, and this is just a lesson to you all. When your ex tells you that they've changed, they haven't. This is from @whiteboy_Kai, interesting. And you know who hasn't been eating much popcorn? Devonta Freeman's fantasy owners, or anybody that has been watching the Falcons running game. Look, I was willing to write off Devonta Freeman's injury history because he was going to get all the backfield share to himself. But that is not what's been happening. Here's the good news for you people. Even though this has been about the worst third-round pick that you possibly could have made, I made that third-round pick a lot too. Right along with you people, I'm completely freaking out about Devonta Freeman. Next. This one comes in from @JPZ30, and I'm actually not freaking out about Aaron Rodgers. He played 2 really tough defenses, interdivision foes in the Bears and the Vikings, and actually had a pretty good quarter of football against that Vikings defense. And yeah, things have been slow to develop here with this offense. I think Aaron Rodgers in the end is going to be fine. Next. This one comes in from @RealSantastic. It's Mike Evans. And yeah, it's been pretty rough on anyone that drafted Mike Evans so far. He has 89 yards and no frickin' touchdowns through the first 2 weeks. But I think things are actually about to get a lot better for Mike Evans. Number one, he still leads the Bucs in air yards. Some of those vertical chances that Mike Evans is getting, those are going to start to convert as time goes on. And this is a great week for that to start happening. He's playing the Giants. Mike Evans' bounce back week starts right here in week 3. Next. This one comes in from @Pedro Mortoza, sticking with the Bucs theme. It's OJ Howard, and yeah, this one is rough. The big problem is the opportunity's not there. He's not running as many routes as we expected. He's blocking a whole hell of a lot. Yeah, I'm panicking. Next. This one comes in from @Bry Evans, and it's Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, it hasn't been good so far. You expected a lot more. Overall, sometimes you just gotta bet on talent. Oh, by the way, he has one of the most talented players in the entire NFL in Odell Beckham on the receiving end of his passes. Things are gonna come together for this Browns offense. I would advise not panicking. Next. This one comes in from @Jimmy_Dimmick, and it's another Browns player, but not number 1 receiver Odell Beckham, number 2 receiver and his BFF, Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry was still priced as if he was a player that was going to get 130 something targets, but where the hell were you going to carve that 130 targets from? Not only is Odell Beckham a true alpha receiver in the offense, they have a young good tight end. They have a good running back who, Nick Chubb, starting to figure it out in the passing game. You don't need to panic that Jarvis Landry hasn't been doing what you expected in fantasy. You need to panic that you made a terrible draft pick. Next. This one comes in from Jocko28. These Twitter handles are getting worse and worse every week. But it probably can't get too much worse for Dante Pettis, who isn't even really playing. Looks like we should have been paying attention to all that negative buzz coming out of 49ers training camp on Dante Pettis. Clearly, the relationship right now between Kyle Shanahan and Dante Pettis is broken. Give it some time to develop, but in the meantime, rid yourself of the mistake next. This one comes in from @Alensa84, I think. I don't know, who's to say, but we've got JuJu SmithSchuster very upset, and yeah, pretty much anyone who drafted JuJu SmithSchuster on their fantasy team, he hasn't gotten double-digit targets in either of the first 2 games. He has not cleared 100 receiving yards, and frankly, he looks like a guy that the Pittsburgh Steelers offense cannot flow through in the passing game. Maybe Mason Rudolph ends up being good, but he's a completely unproven asset. Yeah, I think that sounds like a situation to panic a little bit. Next. And this last one comes in from @EpicPapa, who made an epic mistake by drafting Melvin Gordon. I feel like we say every single week that you shouldn't have Melvin Gordon on your fantasy team. Guess what? Melvin Gordon is not showing up. Melvin Gordon is busy at home watching the games on Sunday, tweeting congratulations to Austin Eckler, his backup running back, every time he scores a touchdown. I don't see a situation where Melvin comes back until he absolutely has to, which is about week 10. If you're worried that Melvin Gordon is not going to show up for your fantasy team, congrats. You found the right thing to panic about. You shouldn't have put yourself in this situation. So that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Fantasy Football Survival Kit. We're going to get more clear pictures about these players going forward, so don't freak out too much, but just adjust your expectations. That's the key to happiness in life. And another key to happiness is joining our Facebook group, the Fantasy Football Survival Kit, and using the hashtag on Twitter, Fantasy Football Survival Kit. We're going to help you guys get through this season. We build a community. We become stronger together.